The bipartisan political organization No Labels is considering launching a third-party unity ticket for the White House next year. That sparked concern among some Democrats and anti-Trump Republicans that their moderate presidential ticket could serve as a spoiler in a close election by peeling off votes from Joe Biden and put Donald Trump back in the White House. That's if he's the Republican nominee. Larry Hogan is the former Republican governor of Maryland. He's now a national co-chair of No Labels, and he joins us now. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Jeff.
So you were a popular Republican governor in a blue state. You were term limited out of office. You've said you aren't seeking the Republican presidential nomination in this cycle, but in your capacity as the national co-chair of No Labels, would you be open to a third-party ticket?
Well, look, I've been involved in No Labels for a number of years because I happen to believe very strongly in what the organization is all about. And it's a citizen group that's very bipartisan, that works on bipartisan common sense solutions to problems. I was involved with the Problem Solvers Caucus of No Labels and helped get the infrastructure bill done. This new thing that we're all talking about is not something that's fully baked, but it's, I understand why so many people are talking about it, because almost 70% of the people in America do not want Joe Biden or Donald Trump to be president, and yet it looks as if the nominations were taking place today, that there's a likelihood that those may be the choices. And No Labels is talking about the idea next spring of potentially giving voters an additional choice. And they're talking about the idea of maybe bringing the country together by having a Republican and a Democrat running together on a unity ticket just to put the country first.
The polling that you mentioned, it doesn't suggest that the people surveyed want or would support a third-party candidate. What's the operating assumption that No Labels is using?
Well, actually, two recent polls. One showed 59% would consider a third-party candidate. The other one said 64% would. An additional poll said that if you had on the ballot today Trump, Biden, or neither, that neither would be the winner. So, look, we don't know what it's going to look like next spring, and there's a whole lot of campaigning between now and then. My focus is on trying to elect a Republican nominee that's going to be taking the party in a different direction than Donald Trump, and that can be a candidate that could win in November. But, just leaving the door open for a group of citizens to say, maybe we should be able to petition to get on the ballot to have an additional choice. That's something that an overwhelming majority of Americans agree with.
On the matter of mounting a potential unity ticket, I spoke on this program last week with Dick Gephardt, the former House Democratic leader, who is now leading a bipartisan organization to stop your group, to stop No Labels. Here's some of what he said.
They say they're forming an insurance policy in the case the candidates are Trump and Biden. That's precisely the time they should not do this if their goal is not to reelect Donald Trump.
So he says that in normal times, he'd have no problem with a third-party ticket. There have been third-party presidential bids for generations, but that these are not normal times. As he says, Donald Trump cannot be permitted anywhere near the White House, and that a No Labels potential candidacy would siphon off votes for Joe Biden.
Well, I agree that they're not normal times, and that there's never been more of a demand for this potential option ever before in the history of our country. We've never had a situation where somewhere between 59 and 64% of the people say they'd consider a third option. We've never had a time when 49% of all the voters in America were now registered independent, with only 25 being Republican and Democrat. So I would just disagree with the premise that they can predict now, maybe nine or 10 months early, who the nominees might be, whether No Labels puts together a ticket or not, and whether or not that ticket is going to draw from Joe Biden or from Donald Trump. But I can tell you that the Democrats are in a full-blown panic because, their candidate is in a really weak position. And they've currently got a third-party candidate that's potentially, going to throw the election. We've got a Green Party candidate that's pulling about 4 or 5% of the vote. And they've got a difficult primary with 30% of the primary voters not voting for Joe Biden.
So what would be the No Labels strategy for getting to 270 electoral votes? Because at a recent No Labels event in New Hampshire, the two most prominent politicians there were Joe Manchin, the Democratic senator from West Virginia, and Jon Huntsman, the former Republican governor of Utah, neither of whom are household names. And it really speaks to the logistical challenge that your organization would have in building support for these candidates if they were on the ticket.
Yeah, well, first of all, that's a big if, and I'm not sure that either one of them would be on a ticket, and I'm not sure if there's going to be a ticket. But No Labels wasn't created for this purpose. No Labels has been around for 12 years. And I can tell you that there's not a single person in the No Labels organization that I know of that is trying to hand the presidency back to Donald Trump. I've been one of his strongest critics in the Republican Party. My co-chair, Joe Lieberman, has been involved in the organization for a long time. Right now, I think it's just a lot of kind of negative rhetoric coming out of Democratic operatives who are trying to stifle potential involvement from citizens.
We are awaiting a potential second special counsel indictment regarding Donald Trump's role in the lead up to January 6th. He faces as many as 6 criminal and civil trials in this election cycle. And it seems that as Donald Trump's legal troubles expand, so too does his base of support. What accounts for that as you see it, and do you see that changing at all?
Well, I sure hope so. I've been trying to do my part to steer the party away from Donald Trump. I think it would be a terrible mistake for the Republican Party to nominate Donald Trump, and I think it'd be terrible for the country for Donald Trump to be elected president again. But look, it's the problem we have right now. About 50% of the likely Republican primary voters do not want Donald Trump, but they've got 11 choices of who else they might support, and many of them are struggling to get attention because all of our focus is on the Trump legal problems. And I think we've got to find a way to narrow that field down, decide who the strongest candidates are, and then we've got to start giving them more attention. But with the current indictments and potential future indictments coming out, it's going to continue to be the thing that takes all of the oxygen out of the room, and unfortunately that's hurting the Republican primary challengers, and if not helping Trump, it certainly isn't hurting him. In a general election, I think it hurts him terribly. It makes him a candidate that is unqualified, should be disqualified from being president, and I think it makes it impossible for him to win a general election. But this is kind of a dream date scenario with the first case coming up in May, which is long after we're going to have selected a nominee. So it would be bad for the Republican challengers and probably good for the Democrats in the general election.
Former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, thanks for being with us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff.